Thank you very much for coming out. You guys are all sick. You guys are all obsessed that you would come here and spend time with me for an hour to learn. I guess this is going to be the first step of many as far as the mobility seminars that we're going to run here about every month. Today, the foundations are going to be laid. Okay. Next month, we're going to talk about mobility strategies. Today, we're going to talk about midline stabilization. When we're talking about midline stabilization, we're talking about the spine. The spine is the first step for any mobilization technique that you possibly can do. Okay, the reason we do that because the spine is your central nervous system. All right. What mobility is basically our defense to the sedentary lifestyle of the modern world. Okay, who drives a car? Who sits maybe 8 hours a day? Okay, these are all threats to our ability to express ourselves as full human beings. Mobility is our offense or defense against this world that we live in. Okay, so as you all know, CrossFit is a core strengthening conditioning program. What does that mean? We're strengthening our cores, right? And conditioning our cores. Okay? Well, we all know CrossFit. I don't know if you know this, but I'm sure level 1 coaches do know this. CrossFit is, anybody know what CrossFit is? Definition of CrossFit? If somebody asks you what CrossFit is? Yeah? Functional movements, high intensity. Constantly vary functional movements at high intensity. All right, functional movements. Let's talk about functional movements. What's a functional movement? A functional movement is defined as basically any movement that is from the core to extremity, from the trunk to periphery. Okay? So it involves any movement that involves muscle contractions from the core or the trunk to the extremity. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit of great length here today. So, as you all know, we're going to go through the strategy, or I guess the principles of mobility and movement. First one, as we talked about, is spine first, and that's what we're addressing today. So why spine first? Big reason why is central nervous system injuries are a bummer. Who here has tweaked your back? Tweaked your neck? It stinks, right? I mean, you don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to sneeze. You don't want to make out. You don't want to cuddle. You just want everybody to get away from you, right? You don't want to lift heavy weights. It's a bummer. But here you guys are. You guys are working out every day, 3 days a week. And when you lose out on the ability to train, that's a serious bummer. I mean, you guys have goals, right? We have goals we want to achieve. And when you can't train because of a central nervous system injury, tweaked back, tweaked neck, that's a real big bummer. Okay, so what we're trying to do is mitigate the possibility of an injury in that regard. The spine also has a major potential for the loss of force production. So, if you take your spine and you put a kink in your spine, your force production will decrease. How much? I don't know. It depends. As we all know, if you sever the spine, let's say below the neck, you'll be paralyzed. Well, somewhere between there and a loss of some type of force production, maybe you're not going to be able to finish out that last round of push-ups, or you're not going to be able to finish that last clean. So what the spine is basically the carriage for the primary engines of your hips and shoulders. Okay, so imagine that your spine, there's your head, there are your hips, okay? Imagine your spine as a chassis for the engines of your hips and shoulders. These are your engines, these are your arms. Okay? So now, so let's picture this. Okay, let's go through a quick thought experiment here. So you have your car out there, right? And it's made out of aluminum. They obviously don't make them out of steel anymore. Aluminum, probably some kind of composite. But it's pretty rigid, isn't it? Imagine if your car was made out of rubber, but your engine was still made out of what it's made out of. And let's say you floored it in your car. What do you think would happen to your car? It'd probably bend. It probably wouldn't be able to put out the amount of force that it can put out right now, because your car is a rigid structure. Your engine produces a lot of force. It's able to go somewhere. But imagine if the chassis of your car was loose. would you be able to go anywhere? Most likely not. Okay? So now think of that as your body. If your trunk, okay, when we define trunk, we're talking about this, anything but your arms and legs. So basically anything other than your shoulders, hips, anything on downstream of that. That is your trunk. So that includes your glutes, all your glutes, includes your abs, includes your spinal erectors, includes your pecs, your lats, everything. You want to get this as stiff as possible and organized as possible before you output power with your limbs, okay? So we're going to talk about how to do that today. That's what we're going to really cover, and that's what you're going to walk away from today with, is how to make your trunk as stiff as possible, okay? So let's talk about the next thing is the one joint rule. Who here has watched gymnastics rings? Everybody? Gymnastics rings? Probably the most boring sport out there, right? Why? All they do is make their trunk, their legs, their butt, everything as stiff as they can. And all they do is just move their shoulders around. Yeah, they go upside down and do all these flips and things like that. But this is all they do, right? They just keep everything stiff. They do some of this. They do some of that. They do some of this. But that's all they do. That's pretty boring, right? Pretty boring sport. But as you guys know, it's hard. That's really hard to keep a rigid body, a rigid spine, rigid legs, rigid hips throughout all that movement, okay? So we're going to take that principle and apply it to what we do here. So what we're trying to avoid here are what are called local extension or flexion falls, so local hinges in the spine, okay? There are typically about 3 areas that you will hinge from, okay? So one would be the cervical spine, just below the bottom base of the neck. When you stick your head up like that, that's a hinge. There's also another hinge just below the thoracic spine at the bottom of your rib cage. There's another possibility of a hinge there. And there's also another possibility of a hinge where L5 and S1 meet. So the bottom of your lumbar spine to your sacrum, which is your tailbone, okay? So let's see here. Who do I know is pretty strong? All right, Ben, let's go ahead. Come on up here. All right, so we're talking about neural tissues now, okay? So Ben, I want you to face the audience here.
Okay.
And let's see here. I know that arm's bad, so we'll go with this arm. All right. So I want you to stick this arm in front of you. All right. Go ahead and stick your fingers out. Make it as tight as you can. Make this as stiff as possible. Right. Don't let me bend it. Okay. We have a box full of 50 puppies in the back, and if I bend this, they all die. All right. So here we go. Ready? All right. I wasn't warm.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Here we go. All right. All right, well, he won. All right, now.
Are they supposed to give up?
Now, what I want you to do, okay, so go ahead and turn around. So if he were to hinge his head back, let's go ahead. You see that right there? See that nice little fold, that little crease? That's a hinge in his cervical system. Now his neural system is compromised, okay? So where do we see that happen? Deadlift maybe? That pull up that you're just trying to get? All right, let's go ahead and see what that does to his force production. Okay, let's go ahead and turn back around. Okay, so when I tell you to look up, so go ahead and look straight. Okay, make this as stiff as you can. So when I tell you to look, I want you to just crank your neck all the way back as far as you can. All right? You ready for this? All right? Crank your neck back all the way. All right, come on. All right, you weren't ready, right? You weren't ready. All right. All right, look straight. All right, now bring your head back, all the way back. All right, so what's up with that? All right, thanks, take a seat.
That is pretty weird.
What is up with that?
Nothing's rock solid.
Yeah, so what you have in your back is called the tension vasculata. It's basically a huge sheet of connective tissue that runs across the whole entire back. Now what I did was I basically freaked his whole backside out. I freaked his whole entire central nervous system out by hinging. Now his body takes that signal of like, hey, there is a threat to the system, and basically shuts down whatever it needs to shut down for survival. So here I am, I'm literally trying to break his arm, right? But, he wasn't letting me before. But as soon as we took the attention off of what he was trying to do, which was not let me hinge his arm, what happened? I hinged his arm. So just imagine what that will do to your force production when you're trying to get that last deadlift and you're like, oh! What do you think is going to happen? You're not going to be able to pull as hard. Or that last pull-up that you're trying to get your head over the bar. Okay, so keeping that in mind, we're going to move on and talk about the laws of torque. And basically, when we talk about torque here, I don't want to confuse anybody with a term, but it's just an easier way to say stability. Okay, so let's talk about the spine first. Okay, stable position of the spine. We'll talk about the spinal archetype. So the spinal archetype, there are 4 basic positions that your spine can be in. Okay, the first one is brace neutral. This is what you're going to be doing all the time, pretty much. So when you sit, when you stand, when you just do anything in life, you're in brace neutral. It is also the only position that you can safely support high axial loads. Okay? So what does that mean? That means this is the only position that you can support heavy weight from this direction. So if you are carrying something on your back, like a back squat, or a yoke, or a deadlift, okay? Brace neutral position is the only position that you can support that load from, okay? Anybody have any questions there as to that? So we're talking overhead squat. You are in a brace neutral position, hands overhead, and you maintain that brace neutral spine up and down. Front squat, same thing, brace neutral. Push-up, brace neutral. We also can compromise these positions into 2 other things. They're called global flexion and global extension. So what does that mean? That's your kip. So when you're kipping on the bar for pull-ups, okay? So when you're kipping here, that's a global, so everything. So your thoracic spine, your lumbar spine, your hips, everything is an extension. And then global flexion is when everything is closed up. Also kind of like doing sit to stands, for example. When you're rolling, these are the shapes. But but you cannot support weight in these positions, okay? Now, the last bit is something a little bit more advanced, and that's braced flexion and braced extension. That's like picking up your odd objects, like your stone, your heavy stone, or or even like picking up a box. I mean, you can't get a perfect brace neutral spine to pick up a huge box, right? There are going to be some kind of compromises that you're going to make, but for the braced flexion, braced extension, your lumbar is still braced, but then you can bias your thoracic spine, your upper spine, into an extension or flexion moment, okay? All right, so those are the stable positions of the spine. Those are the archetypes, I should say. All right, so let's talk about our primary engines, okay, our hips and shoulders. So this is actually, I wouldn't say it's theory, it's more law more than theory, because when you dissect a human body, this is what you'll see, okay? So let's talk about the shoulders real quick. Stable position of the shoulders, okay? When you are overhead, the stable position of the shoulder is flexion, so that means your arm comes out in front of you. It's flexion and external rotation, okay? So let's see here. Let's go ahead and get Vanessa up here. She's actually got full capability in this realm. So what this means is that with her rib cage down, she's able to raise her arm overhead in full external rotation and have it completely vertical without losing her thoracic spine. That is full range of motion for an overhead position, okay? And we'll explore your guys' positions in a little bit here, okay? So if you're not able to do that, it's basically a yes or no. Are you capable of doing this? Yes, no. And if you're not, then there's actually more, you have more potential that can be gained in performance. So flexion and external rotation. Let's see here, the front rack position. Front rack position, what is that? Yeah, elbows up. So what it is a front rack position is mid-range flexion and external rotation. So basically anywhere in the middle, you still need to be able to achieve full external rotation of your shoulder somewhere mid-range, okay? So wherever it is, somewhere in the middle, it doesn't, anywhere in the middle. So full external rotation is about 45 degrees to the external, okay? So if you have that, if you're missing something, then you have something more to gain. All right, let's also talk about the hang archetype. The hang archetype is full internal rotation. Okay, that's this archetype here. So your hang position in the snatch, hang position in the clean. That's what that is. Okay? So what is full range? Full range just so happens to be if you're able to fully internally rotate such that if you're holding a barbell, it were to touch your belly, that is full range. It was as if God designed us to be Olympic lifters, right? So that's true. God was an Olympic lifter. All right. So the final archetype is press. So what that means, when your arm is in extension, the stable position is internal rotation. So extension is now whenever your arm is behind you, internal rotation is the stable position of your shoulder. So where does that come into play? Your push-up, dip. What else? What other movements do we see a press archetype? Muscle-ups. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So muscle-ups, for example, that takes care of your overhead, right? You're hanging on the rings or the bar. Your front rack to your press, and then on up, right? So that takes care of 3 of the 4, right? Why are muscle-ups so hard? That's why. Because it challenges 3 different ranges of the shoulder, okay? Or 3 different archetypes of the shoulder. All right. Now, lastly, we'll talk about the hips. Okay? There are 3 different positions or 3 different archetypes for the hips. As we all know, we do this every so often here at the gym. The squat archetype. Squat archetype demands for full hip flexion, which is about 140 degrees, and external rotation. Okay, so external rotation would be externally rotating your hip as such. Okay, that's external rotation. So full flexion and external rotation. Pistol archetype. So pistol archetype, all that challenges is you need a full flexion of the hips, but you also need full ankle dorsiflexion. And hip flexion. So how do we test this? Now, you don't necessarily have to do a pistol. You can just simply put your feet together. So everybody get out of their seats. Put your feet together. Heels on the ground. And go ahead and go into a full squat. If you can do this, and let's go ahead and lift 1 foot up while we're at it, while we're there. If you can do this, you have full ankle range. If you can do that, you have full ankle range. So you can just take that off the table. And the last is the lunge archetype. So lunge. And this is when your hip is in extension. Okay, so if external rotation is a stable position of your hip in flexion, what do you think the stable position of your hip would be in extension when your leg is behind you? What would that be? Internal rotation. Exactly. So when you land in the jerk, where is your back leg going to be? It's turned in. When you run, where is your back leg? Or where should it be? It should be turned in. When you walk, where should your back leg be? It should be turned in. Now, if you're missing internal rotation range in your hip, that's going to open up a lot of problems. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, okay? So keep that in mind. That's why running is probably the most dangerous thing you could possibly do in CrossFit, honestly. Because most people lack the ankle range, and they also lack the hip range to run safely. So internal rotation. All right. So as an athlete, you need to be able to move freely from one shape to the other. If you have full capacity in all these ranges, you can do any sport that is out there. You can do any sport and you can excel at that sport that's out there. You are a complete human being if you have all 7 of these in full range. Now, if you don't, then you have more potential to be gained in that area. All right. And also, we'll talk about if your body does not have the capacity for these, your body will figure out a way to get there. Figure out a way. So what it will actually do is it'll actually revert to the non-ideal or the non-optimal position of these. So it's really simple. If you're missing flexion and external rotation overhead, what's your shoulder going to do? It's going to internally rotate. Your elbow is going to bend and you're going to internally rotate if you're missing that range as a compensation. Your body will figure out what it needs to do to get where you want it to go. It might not be the optimal way, but it'll get you there. And that's where we don't want to confuse task completion, which is, hey, I need to get that last pull-up. I need to get that last push jerk. And with you, I guess just say with you doing it in perfect form, because if you don't have that range, let's say, to do that, your body will figure out a way to get you there. So let's not confuse functional versus optimal. Optimal is this. You want to have full capacity, full range. Functional is actually you just getting the job done, which everybody obviously here can do, okay? Let's talk about the last concept of mobility we're going to talk about is the tunnel. As we talked about with running, if you are missing, so for every position that you're going to do in CrossFit or just in life, okay, you want to start in the right position. If you don't start in the right position, you can't finish in the right position or an ideal position. Okay? So for instance, running. If you are missing internal rotation range of your hip, what's your back foot going to do? It's going to turn out, right? So it's going to be turned out, and it's going to somehow swing around in front of your body. You don't know how. And as we talked about, there's no way to reclaim that good position. So when you're going to land probably on the outside of your foot. Your ankle's going to roll in, your ankle's going to collapse, your knee's going to go in, and then the process then repeats itself. Okay? So the point is, in order to finish in a good position, you have to start in a good position. There's no compensation in the middle. One of the things I observed with that we observed with USA Olympic lifters, for example, our national team. As you guys know, that they're top ranked in the world? Maybe? No, they're not. They're absolutely not. We have the worst Olympic lifting program in the world, or one of them. Why? Because they believe in overextension. They believe in arching as hard as you can. You look at the Chinese, you look at the Russians, they're obviously the top of the world. they all believe in this braced spine. There's no way that you can go from a fully extended position in a snatch and all of a sudden into a braced neutral position. It's impossible. It happens way too quickly. So we'll go ahead and show that you can't reclaim a good position from a bad position a little bit later when we break out. So for the tunnel, the concept there is you can't finish in a good position if you don't start in a good position. But what are we saying here? If you can't do this, what does that mean? I mean, that doesn't mean that you can't do the movement. It doesn't mean that your arm's going to fall off or your knees are going to explode. The human body has a great capacity to buffer these things, but it's not optimal. You're going to get tired a little bit faster. You're going to use a little bit more energy, and it's just not optimal. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and spread on out. Go ahead and put these boxes out to the side. All right, everybody on your backs. All right, let's get back up. What are we doing, guys? We do CrossFit, right? Now, this is what I saw. This is what I saw everybody do. All right, everybody get on your back. All right. So, why are we not using what we practice? Okay, let's get on the floor, get on your back. Let's try that again. Yeah, it's a lot easier too, isn't it? All right, anyways. All right, everybody on their backs. We're going to talk about midline stabilization and how to get tight. Okay, so everybody on your backs, legs out straight out in front of you, hands by your sides. Okay? Now what I want you to do, when I tell you to, keep your heads down, I want you to lift your legs 1 inch off the floor. Okay, when I tell you to. Okay, ready? Lift. Okay, and back down. Ready? Lift. And back down. All right, put your hands on your belly. Okay, now, ready? Lift. Put them back down. What did you feel your belly do? It tightened. It kind of freaked out on you. It kind of popped out, didn't it? All right, let's try it again. Ready? Lift. Yeah. I see everybody's bellies popping out. What's happening there? Put your legs down. Well, actually, what's really happening there is that your emergency stabilization system is firing. Okay? What's happening is that, so let's go, everybody sit up for a second. Okay? Go ahead and sit. Okay? So what's happening is that, go ahead and lift the legs up. He flinched, right? Everybody see that little flinch? What happened was that his hip flexor fired, which pulled on his pelvis. His pelvis is attached to his spine, right? And as that quickly moved up, his hips rotated forward. His spine experienced a moment of shear at the L5-S1 vertebrae. So what happens to the body there? Your body goes, it's freaking out. It's going, hey, this is not cool. I'm going to fire my emergency stabilization system, which is your psoas. And that's what you saw, his belly all of a sudden just pop out, almost as if he had an alien popping out of his belly. Okay? So that's what we're trying to avoid. His body experienced a local extension fault. Okay? Go ahead and bring your legs back down. All right. So how are we going to prevent this from happening? How are we going to get stable? All right. Everybody on your backs. All right. Lift your leg up 1 inch off the ground. Lift them up. Try to talk to the person next to you. Head down, head down, head down. A little, kind of hard. All right, put your legs down. All right. So what you're going to do now is point your toes. So I want everybody right now, point your toes, point your toes, point your toes, point your toes. Squeeze your butt as tight as you can. Okay? Make your belly tight and lift your toes, lift your feet 1 inch off the deck. Okay, now talk to the person next to you. That's kind of hard, right? We haven't braced our spine yet. All right, so what I want you to do is So now flex your toes towards your face. Flex your toes towards your face. Now squeeze your butt. How's that working for you? Not so good. It's not working. All right, so why do we let our toes come up off the ground when we squat and deadlift? You cannot tap into the power of your posterior chain without pointing your toes or leaving your toes grounded or pushing your toe into the ground. So let's go ahead and point your toes. Point your toes, squeeze your butt. A lot tighter, right? You're actually able, this is what's called triple extension. You see this in your snatch. You see this in your clean. Okay? The reason we do this is that it fires your posterior chain and makes it as effective as possible. All right. So what I want you to do now is go ahead and point your toes, squeeze your butt. Now I want you to take a deep breath into your belly. Take a deep breath in your belly and exhale. Okay, one more time. Point your toes, squeeze your butt, take a deep breath in your belly, and exhale. Good. All right, so on the next breath, I want you to take a deep breath in the belly. As you exhale, I want you to stiffen your abs. Make it tight as possible. Cobra tight. Tight, 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 tight. Hold it. Tight, tighter, tighter. Make it tight, tight. Now take a breath into that tight belly. How's that working out for you? It's hard. But what that is the stable position of the spine. Your spine is now stable in that position. Okay? So, point your toes, squeeze your butt, take a deep breath in your belly, exhale, make it tight. Now lift your feet up 1 inch off the ground. A little bit easier? A little bit easier? Maybe? All right, same thing. Point your toes, squeeze your butt. Take a deep breath in your belly. Exhale. Put your hands underneath your butt and do flutter kicks. Same thing, brace. Small flutter kicks. Now talk to the person next to you. All right. Now turn your butts off and keep talking to the person next to you. Doing flutter kicks. How's that feel? Horrible. All right, go ahead and sit on up. Did everybody get that? Did everybody get that feeling? Go ahead and sit on up. Sit on up. Did everybody get that feeling? Please raise your hand if you didn't all of a sudden feel like, oh my gosh, I can't do a flutter kick to save my life.
No, I just couldn't talk anymore.
Yeah, you couldn't talk. Okay, so what's happening there? So when you overextend, you lose your ability for your diaphragm to actually work normally. Okay, your diaphragm is right here. You have two diaphragms in the human body. Okay, you have the diaphragm, and you also have the pelvic floor. Okay, they're attached by the psoas, your erectors, things like that. So once you overextend, your diaphragm stops working. When your diaphragm stops working, your pelvic floor stops working. Okay? So, when you have, let's say, had kids, if you had a baby, or if you've been pregnant, you all know stuff stops kind of working, right? Well, this is how you reclaim that. Okay? So we are reclaiming by getting yourself out of overextension and putting yourself back into a neutral spine. Okay? All right. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and get everybody on your backs again. We'll do one more little exercise. On your backs. Point your toes. Squeeze your butt. All right, what I want you to do is take a deep breath. As big a breath as you can into your belly. Big, big, big breath. Now get tight. Get tight. How's that working out for you? Horrible. It's not possible. It's like trying to stuff a bounce house into a duffel bag. You can't do it. So, in review, brace position. Point your toes. Squeeze your butt as tight as you can. Take a deep breath in your belly. Exhale. Make it tight. Now breathe into that steel tank that you just created. Keep your belly stiff. And breathe into that stiff belly. That is where you're going to lift weights That's where you're going to squat. That's where you're going to deadlift. That's where you're going to do anything that requires force production from any of your primary engines. All right, good job. Let's go ahead and put your arms overhead. Elbows straight. Elbows straight. Elbows straight. I do not want to see any bent elbows. Elbows straight. Elbows straight. Now, who breaks before they put their arms overhead? Anybody? Yes. All right. That was a coaching fault, right? All right, so anytime you put your arms over your head, you will brace. Okay, so let's start all over again. Arms by your sides. Point your toes. Feet together, point your toes. Squeeze your butt. Take a deep breath in your belly. Exhale, make it tight. Now put your arms over your head. Do not overextend. Stop at your limits. I should not see any space. Grab your thumb. Everybody grab your thumb. Elbows straight. Elbows straight. Elbows straight. We're doing burpees and everybody's elbows aren't straight. Straight. Straighten out your elbows. Do not compromise. Do not compromise. Grab your thumb with the other hand. Elbows straight. Yep. Straighten out. Straighten them out. Okay, now move your hands a little bit further off the ground. A little further off the ground. Elbows straight. Lift them up off the ground. Higher, higher, higher. Until your back is flat on the ground. Until your lower back is flat on the ground. If you feel yourselves get loose in the middle, okay. So now from there, keeping your lower back on the ground, butt tight, belly in, slowly reach your arms overhead without bending your elbows. Do not bend your elbows. Do not bend your elbows. Keep them straight. Lock them out. Lock them out. If you stop before they reach the floor, that is your limit. So do not overextend. Got it? All right, so everybody from that position, don't change spine. Put your hands underneath your back. Underneath your lower back. Did you guys feel that space there that kind of formed? So that's your back flat on the floor. Now go ahead and brace. Go ahead and point your toes, squeeze your butt. Take a deep breath in your belly. Make it tight. You should feel your back closing towards the ground. Did everybody feel that? Okay, good. Now let's try this one more time, all right? Arms by your side. Get tight. Point your toes. Squeeze your butt. Take a deep breath in your belly. Exhale. Make it tight. Now slowly bring your arms over your head and do not let your spine change. Do not let your spine change. Elbows straight, elbows straight, elbows straight. All right, good. All right, go ahead and get on up. So what we're seeing there, go ahead and get on your feet. On your feet. Good, good. Oh, uh-oh. All right, so everybody felt that tone in your belly, right? Now, how tight do we need to get to do, let's say, a push-up? I don't know. 40%, 50%? How tight should we get when we run? I don't know, 60%? You get tight as far as the situation dictates, okay? So if you were doing a max, 1 rep max effort, absolutely, you're going to get 100% peak stiffness cobra tight. Okay, you're going to squeeze as hard as you can, get as stiff as possible. But if you're standing here, how tight should you be? About 20%. Enough so that somebody can come up to you and just smack you in the belly and you won't go, oh man. So all the time, there is no ab vacation. Okay, there's no abcation. Okay, your abs are always on 20%. All right? So let's go ahead and stand. All right, everybody get your feet straight. Look down. Feet straight. Okay? Raise your hand, arms above your head. Elbows straight, elbows straight. Did you brace? Yeah. Everybody brace? If you didn't brace, do 1 burpee. All right. What are we trying to work on here? We're Okay, so make sure you brace. So now when we're standing, it's a little bit different now, right? So what you're going to do is push your toes in the ground, like point your toes. So point your toes, so push your toes into the ground, your big toe into the ground. Okay? Squeeze your butt. Take a breath in your belly. Exhale, make it tight. Okay? As tight as the situation dictates. So right now you're just standing, so about 20, 30% tension. Okay? Now from there you can do whatever you want. Now from there you can go and pick up the kitty litter off the counter and put it up on the top shelf. As tight as the situation dictates. This is what protects your back. This is how we're going to apply this into real life. So when you get up off the ground, you need a little bit of tension, a little bit of tone. So it's something. So squeeze your butt, get your belly tight, take a deep breath into that tight belly, and that's the amount of tension that you need to move around in life. And this is what you're going to do to practice it, okay? So we got a couple more things, a couple more exercises we're going to do, and then we'll get to lifting or to setting up to some weights. All right, so go ahead and put your arms overhead and grab your thumb like you're grabbing a kettlebell. Okay? Elbows straight, above the head, elbows straight. Good. All right. Now what I want you to do from there, everybody's tight, right? Take a deep breath in your belly, right? Now go ahead and let go. Let go. What do we see? Relax your butt. Relax your butt. Yep, relax your butt. All right, let's try that again. Arms by your side. Okay, get tight. Point your toes, squeeze your butt. Take a deep breath in your belly. Get tight. Go ahead, lift your arms above your head, keeping everything tight. And release your butt. Okay? Yeah, everything kind of just dropped. Everything got soft, okay? Now, keep it up there. Keep your hands up there. Now imagine, let's say this is your position in the kettlebell, and you're not able to get all the way to the top overhead, and you overextended once you got loose, once you lost that tension, okay? You can't reclaim a good position from a bad position, right? So, where do you think your back is going to be when you come back down? You're going to be over, so you're going to be in a bad position, okay? So it's going to be challenging to maintain these positions. It's a challenge, but it's going to protect the spine, it's going to protect your joints, and it's going to result in higher force output if you're able to maintain these positions. All right, let's talk about the front rack position. Front rack. So let's go into the push-up position. Is the push-up position front rack?
Yes.
Mid-range flexion, right? Except you're on the ground. All right, everybody in the push-up position. Everybody up, off the ground, up. Yep. There you go, at the top of the position, the push-up. All right, I see some of you guys are trying to cheat a little bit here with your feet being apart. Get your feet together. Feet together. All right, good. Well, let's try this then, okay? Take your feet apart, because I saw a lot of people putting their feet apart. Put your feet apart, squeeze your butt. Okay? Now put your feet together. Squeeze your butt. Feel a difference there? You get a lot tighter with your feet together, right? All right. So, from there, set up. The shoulders are over your wrists. And all this is a simple screen of your midline stability. Do you have the core strength to maintain? The simple screen, 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yeah. So the push-up is not an arm exercise, it is a midline stabilization exercise. Are you able to stabilize your midline? So what kind of strategy are we using right now, guys? So make sure you're pointing your toes, so you're pushing your toes down in the ground. Squeeze your butt, make your belly tight. Are we good?
Yeah.
All right. All right, let's get into that push-up position. All right, lower yourself to the ground. Lower yourself to the ground. Get back up. Did any of you feel a spinal position change? Okay. Are we supposed to change our spine under load? No. Okay. All right, so let's fight to achieve that position. Okay? So what I want you to do is push-up position. Get tight. Get tight. Top of the push-up position. Point your toes. Squeeze your butt. Belly tight. Everybody to the top. Everybody to the top. Everybody up to the top. All right. Now go ahead and lower yourself to the ground. Turn your butt off. Now push up. What? How is that even possible? You can't. You can't do that. You have to maintain that stiffness so that the output of your engines, which are your shoulders, will actually transfer to the spine, which is your body. Let's talk about how to, or load order sequencing. Okay? All right, everybody get into the push-up position, except turn your hands completely around. Completely around.
I ain't doing a push-up like that.
I'm gonna go that far.
All right, some of you having problems doing this? If you have a hard time doing this, you failed a simple test. It's a wrist screen. That is full range of your wrists to get into a push-up position with your hands turned all the way backwards. That is a wrist screen right there. So if you're not able to do that, you are missing full range in your wrists. Okay? So are we able to get a stable? So Dan, are you able to get a stiff in that position? Can you get a stiff in this position? Are you having a hard time?
Yeah.
Versus your hands the other way?
Yeah.
Are you able to squeeze your butt?
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right, now go ahead and lower. So Dan can do this. So go ahead and lower yourself to the ground.
Do it.
All right. Get on up. Lower yourself to the ground. You do it.
That's crazy.
There we go.
Gymnast can
And
do
up.
that.
Excellent. All right. If you guys saw what he was doing first, and we'll just talk about this, we won't actually have you guys do this. Okay? What he was doing at first was that he was trying to move his elbows back and then go down. He was like, oh, I can't, right? But Dan soon figured out, hey, it's not about moving because if you move your elbows first, what are you loading first? Your elbows, right? So what he ended up figuring out was, oh, hey, I needed to load my shoulders first, then lower myself down, and then push myself back up. Okay? So what does that sound like? So when you squat, is it okay to squat like this? Is it okay to squat like this? No. So why is it okay for the push-up to load your elbows first? To load your elbows first. So why is that okay? It's not. So what we're talking about here is one simple principle called load order. So this is a law. The tissues loaded first in range are loaded maximally in range. Okay? So when you load on the push-up, what you should do is come forward, load your shoulders first, then lower yourself down, and then back up. I mean, who here gets big shoulders when they do push-ups? Like you get some, irritation, tendonitis. It happens. Exactly, it happens. The shoulders get smoked, and you're like, why? Why does that happen? Well, that's why. If you load your elbows first, your elbows are taking the brunt. If you load your shoulders first, then now your torso is actually taking the load. And you're actually going to be able to manage it a lot better. Okay? One thing left we have to talk about is torque. We talked about how torque is the stable, or external rotation is the stable position of the shoulder. Okay? So let's go ahead and get back into the push-up position. Regular push-up position, hands forward. All the way to the top. And what I want you to do is take your thumb and your index finger and lift them up off the ground. And do a push-up. That's ridiculous. Who would ever do that? Who would ever do that? Okay, go ahead and get on your knees.
That was a lot of
Yeah, who would do that? So why would you let your toes come off the ground when you squat or deadlift? Why? I don't know. You wouldn't. Because your hand is no longer a hand when you lift your thumb and your index finger off the ground, right? You lose all that stability. Okay? When you take your big toe off the ground, is your foot a foot? No, it's a peg leg. You know, might as well just be walking around on pegs. Would you dunk a basketball like this? Would you run like this? No. So keep the big toe down. The big toe needs to stay down because you're missing out on a ton of force production. You're missing out on a lot of leverage, and you're missing out on a lot of stability. Okay, so let's talk about torque real quick. So what I want you to do is when you're in the push-up position, go push-up position one more time. What I want you to do is screw your shoulders into the ground. Externally rotate your shoulders. So the cue generally is elbow pits forward, but that's not exactly what I want. I want you to create maximum stiffness in your shoulder socket. So go ahead and twist. You guys feel your upper back get tight when you did that? Now I want you to give me 100% torque. Just turn them as tight as you possibly can. Tight, tight, tight. Just twist them as hard as you can. Now is that what you want? Now what I'm seeing, a lot of backs are bending. Okay, go ahead and get on your knees. So we're going back to is getting as stiff as you need to for the task at hand. You want to generate as much torque that's needed for the task at hand, okay? So if you go 100% torque in your shoulders, you're going to end up bending the chassis, just as if you have like a super 1,000 horsepower engine on your geometric. It's going to bend the chassis, okay? So screw in your arms and into your shoulders as much as needed, okay? So that goes for everything else. All right. We're going to talk about, I know we're going a little bit over, but we've got one more thing to talk about here, is the squat. Let's go ahead and get on our feet. All right. So when you stand, feet need to be straight. Feet need to be straight. So look down, look at your feet, need to be straight. All right, go ahead and set up for your squat stance. Okay, squat stance, feet about shoulder width apart. Okay, so now go ahead and screw. What I want you to do is point your toes. So point your toes is what? Just getting that big toe on the ground. Okay, squeeze your butt. Now what I want you to do is also get as much external rotation torque as you can into your hips. So your femurs, which are your upper parts of your legs, I want you to twist them into your hip sockets. Okay? There we go. Leslie, you got that. What did you notice? That your pelvis changed, didn't it? Okay? So what you'll find is that if your pelvis was in a bad position and you screwed your legs and your femurs into the ground and you found that your pelvis position changed, that means you were in a bad position before. This is the ideal, optimal position of your pelvis. Okay? This is where you're going to be able to affect the most amount of load from, apply the most amount of force, and this is also going to actually give you a bit more range in things like doing the squat and things like that. It's going to upregulate everything. Everything's going to start working better. Okay? So point your toes, squeeze your butt, screw. When we squeeze our butt, you're going to screw. You're going to create as much torque in your hip as you can. Take a deep breath in your belly. Exhale. Make your belly tight. Now take a deep breath into that tight belly. Okay? Now from there, go ahead and stick your arms in front of you. Externally rotate the shoulders. Good. Okay, we don't want our hands like this. That's kind of creepy. All right, just externally rotate the shoulders. And go ahead and squat, maintaining that tightness. Follow the path of the torque in your hips. Okay, so go ahead and get back up. So you guys felt your femur screw into your hips, right? Now follow that angle of force. Just let your knees follow that torque. Okay, good, Javier. So go ahead and squat on down. Follow that force. Good, good, good. Go as low as you can go without compromising your spine. Good. That's a squat. Excellent. All right, let's talk about the front rack. Okay, so everybody get your hands behind your head or over your shoulders. Okay, same thing, feet wide. So Leslie, get your feet a little bit wider. Feet wide. Okay, point your toes, get your butt tight. Exhale, rotate into your hips. Take a deep breath in your belly. Exhale, take a deep breath into that tight belly. Hold it, and then go down. And up. Okay? All right, let's challenge it one more time. Arms overhead. Elbows straight. Okay? If anybody bends their elbows, those kittens will die. All right. So screw your feet into the ground. Butt tight. External rotation into the hips. Take a deep breath in your belly. Make it tight. And go ahead and lower yourself down. Knees out, knees out, knees out. All right, one thing we didn't talk about is the bottom of the squat. Okay, what are we looking for in the bottom of the squat? Everybody's squat's looking a lot better than I've seen before. So bottom of the squat, I want you to just go ahead and get to a nice rock bottom position, as low as you can go. Get your elbows inside your knees and push out. Feet straight. Go ahead and get your feet straight. Feet straight, heels on the ground. Or feet straight. Feet straight, feet straight, feet straight. There we go. Now drive those knees out with your elbows. There we go. Good. Feet straight. Excellent. Okay, push them out. That is the bottom of your squat. Right there. Now go ahead and come on up. All right, so let's go ahead and get organized. So, big toe on the ground. Squeeze your butt. Screw it into your hips. Get tight. Arms overhead. And lower yourself down. Knees out, knees out, knees out. And then on up. Excellent. All right. Exactly. So what have you all noticed with that? Like, feel a bit more stable in the hips, right? Using a lot more muscles. You're able to recruit a lot more musculature. All right, so here's the deal, guys. We're not going to get good at this if we just practice this every time we go to the gym. Honestly. Like, your stabilization strategy needs to be practiced all the time. Okay? So, how do we do this? It's what's called secret practice. Okay? Secret practice. So when, for instance, like when you're standing in line at the grocery store, or you're at school, or whatever, what I want you to do is go ahead and make sure your big toe's down, screw your feet in the ground, get some external rotation into the hips, belly tight, and this is your normal position. The Japanese warrior samurai, Musashi, the Book of the Five Rings said, make your combat stance your everyday stance. So practice. Put this into your practice every day so that when you do come into the gym and do workouts, like this is standard for you. So that when you do set up to the rack to do a squat, bam, you're already there. You're already stable. You're already organized. Okay. We're going to break out afterwards. If you have time to stay, we're going to talk about how to set up to the barbell if you're interested in that, how to basically apply this to the barbell. If not, thank you guys for coming tonight. I hope you guys learned a lot. If you have any further questions, feel free to send me a message on Facebook or whatever, or go ahead and pull me aside at the gym. I'm usually here pretty much all the time. So if you have any concerns or anything like that, anything you want to work on, please let me know. Jacob wanted me to leave you guys with something to work on before next month's mobility lecture, is to smash your quads. Find a partner, workout partner, 10 to 15 minutes a day, every day, smash your quads. Okay, does everybody know what that means? Does anybody not know what that means? Okay, so what I want you guys to do is, that's pretty much your homework until the next class, smash your quads. You're going to see a lot of things a lot of problems resolve themselves. You're going to see back pain go away. You're going to see better overhead range. You're going to see better squatting mechanics, and also better recovery off of WODs when you smash your quads every day. Okay, so just try to find some time, 10 to 15 minutes a day. Just hit 5 minutes each leg, and just smash it. Just 10 to 15 minutes a day. So, all right. Thanks a lot, guys. If you want to stick around, go ahead and stick around. We'll go ahead and hit the barbells. Okay, so we'll talk about a top-down set. All right, top-down set would be for the deadlift. Okay? So as you all know, set up with a bar, roughly over the middle of it. Okay, so basically over like the ball of the that's a good place to start. Okay, from there, what you're going to do is feet are obviously hip width apart. So just start from the top, okay? What we're going to do is screw, externally rotate your upper arms, okay? So everybody does. Just go ahead and sit out in front of you, like a zombie. Just, like Montel likes to say, it's like he's praying to the weightlifting gods, like before he approaches the bar. So screw your upper arm, just like we did with a push-up. So externally rotate, okay? Good. So from there, your shoulders are unloaded. Now, go ahead and run through the bracing sequence, Push your big toe in the ground. Screw your legs into the ground. Your hips tight, okay? And maintaining this tension, and then get your belly tight. Go ahead and bend from your hips as far as you can. That's step one. Without rounding your back, you cannot round your back, okay? Okay, now as this is as far as you can go, right? You kind of stop. Now the next move, knees forward, and that will lower you to the bar. Okay. Now maintaining that external rotation tension in your back. Then from here, you can go ahead and load your hips and hamstrings by lifting, trying to lift up your butt and just get tension on the bar. So what you're trying to get is like 300 pounds of tension into the bar before you even start lifting that bar off the ground, okay? So let's go ahead and give it a shot. Go ahead and Javier. So arms in front of you, neutral spine, head up. Everything's neutral, right? Okay? Arms screwed. So go ahead and screw, get everything as tight as you can. So everything's screwed in. Now bend from the waist. Good. Knees forward. And then now, from there, get tension into your hips. So feel your hips load with about 300 pounds of tension. You feel that?
Yeah.
Now from there, then you can lift. If you're organizing this, you don't have to lift. I just want you guys to feel the tension into the bar. Okay. So you felt. Where did you feel your tension at?
My quads.
Okay. So
That's wrong.
Yeah, it's wrong. So let's do that again. So go ahead and get yourself a little further away from the bar. Okay. There you go. Arms out in front. Screw your arms. Externally rotate. Boom. Good. Okay. Screw your feet into the ground. And your knees are probably going to should track out if your butt's tight. Is your butt super tight right now? Okay. Good. Now bend forward from the hips. As far as you can without letting this go. Okay. That's it. That's it right there. That's as far as you can go. Now from there, go ahead and bend your knees. Good. From there, now, okay, maintaining this, but still tight, right?
Yeah.
Now go ahead and straighten your shins. And you're feeling that into your butt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm still feeling it in my quads.
Okay.
I think I'm just weird.
He's keeping his butt real low.
Yeah.
Raise your butt up. Create the torque. Try it again. You got it. Don't keep your butt low. Just everything he's teaching you,
Yeah.
do it, and then make sure that butt goes up.
Knees out. So where's the tension right now?
In my head.
In your hips, right? Okay. So make your hips even tighter. Tighter. There you go. Do you feel that?
Yeah.
Do you see? It's the fact of the matter is your hips are loaded first. Okay. So your hips are actually loaded from right here. You've already loaded your hips at the beginning. You just need to just maintain that load all the way through. Okay. All right, Ben, do you want to set up? So don't hinge. Keep your head up, head neutral.
Yeah.
Okay. Bend forward from the hips. Good. Now knees forward. Good. Maintaining that tension in the hips, right? You feel that tension. Now go ahead and put 300 pounds of tension in the bar. So you're still feeling it in the hips, right? Okay, good. That's what you want to feel every time you set up to the bar. Okay. Is you're loading here
Oh,
first.
that felt weird because it felt all light when it came over.
Yeah. But you're preloading that tension into your hips before you actually lift. So we're not going to grab the bar and just like yank it off the ground. We want to preloaded into the bar through our hips and hamstrings. Head down, head neutral. There we go. There we go. Do you feel that? Yeah. Do you see how his kind of hips went back and his shins went vertical? That's loading hips. Dan, you want to set up? Yeah. Good. Then let your knees come forward. Let your knees come forward. And just go ahead and both overhand. There we go. You can get more torque on the bar like that. Okay. So then there, yep. Then the bar. Do you feel that tension in your hips? And then from there, that's where you'll actually lift. Okay. Wait till you get that tension in your hips. That's why we're going with the overhand grip. You're going to be able to apply more torque and make your shoulders a lot more stable with this external rotation. So when you your hands on the bar, you keep maintaining that external. Do you feel that?
Yeah.
So externally rotate there, and then load your hips. There you go. How do you feel that?
Yeah.
Sweet. Excellent. There you go. Just like that. Yep, just like that. There you go. Good.
No.
Okay, so bend forward from your hips. Bend forward from your hips first.
That'd be good.
Bend forward. There we go. Good. Now, let your knees come forward. Knees come forward. Knees come forward. Knees come forward. Good. Now go ahead and reach down. Good. Maintain this external rotation. There we go. So maintain that. Now, go ahead and load your hips by verticalizing your shins. There you go. You feel that? Do you feel that in your hips? Yeah. Okay. And then from there, that's where you're going to lift from. Okay. So don't lift it off the ground. I just want you to feel that tension into the bar. Is that any different from what you've ever felt before?
Once I started leaning back, yeah.
Yeah.
Usually I'm like this. Back.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's a good place to start. So that's going to be the start position of your clean also. For the clean and snatch, where you want to sit up, let's do it. Let's see if you are. Excellent. That's good. Okay, go ahead and bend forward from your hips. Bend forward from your hips. Good. And then bend your knees. Your feet straight. Yeah, put your feet straight. Feet straight. Okay, so go ahead. Let's start from the top again. Okay, screw them in. Feet straight. Yeah, feet straight. Okay, now screw your feet in the ground. Butt tight. Okay. Now bend forward from the hips. Okay. And then when you hit the ring, let your knees come forward. Okay. Good. And then from there, screw in your upper arms. So once your hands on the bar, screw it in really tight. You feel how I got tight when you screw in? Okay, now from there, I want you to load your hips and hamstrings. So you're going to do that by pushing your knees back. Do you feel that? That's what you want to feel. It's that flow. Okay? All right. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is avoid, guys, the world record for the deadlift was set with a stool open. Okay, so your grip, if you keep losing your grip, right, you're doing this, you need to work on your grip. Okay. But by having your hands, over, you're going to be able to achieve a lot more torque and more stability in your shoulders. Okay? Because if you do this now, just try it. See how much torque can you apply if you can't.
I feel like you're fighting both ways.
Well, it's just like doing a push-up this way, right? Can you apply any torque to the ground like this? None. You got nothing. You're done. You can't apply any force there. Okay. So you're going to be able to get a more stable shoulder if your hands are over like this. Okay. Now, if you find yourself losing your grip on high rep deadlifts, heavy deadlifts, then yeah, you work on your grip. It's pretty much as easy as that, right? So, anyways, any more questions? So, same thing for the clean if you want. Set it for the clean is, what's that?
Clean that.
So, for the clean, it's different because it's a bottom up setup, okay? So you're gonna start from the bottom because if you start from the top, you're gonna pass out because it'll just take too long. So you're gonna set up from the bottom position and you're going to hunt for as much tightness as you can. So from here, arms straight up against and then load. That'd be the difference. Same thing with a snatch. From the bottom, you're getting your shoulders back and set. Screwing your feet into the ground, hips tight, and then applying that tension into the bar. Okay? So that's the difference between a bottom up setup and a top down setup, okay? Is you're going to want to get set and get tight. And when we're talking tight, we're talking about everything getting tight. You know, you're like in a squat rack, for example, doing like a back squat. You're just going to squeeze your butt, just get everything as tight as possible, unload, and then do your movement, right? You want your chassis, your trunk to be as rigid as possible before you can do anything. And that's basically the whole point of the evening. Okay? All right, good job, guys.
Thanks.